7 like 7.
Tonight, Cyclone Fran weakening but still advancing on the central Queensland coast.
And Australia's World Cup final hopes still alive after thrashing Zimbabwe.
Good evening, Gary Wilkinson and Pat Welsh with 7 Nightly News. Australia's racism controversy has been further fuelled by an angry verbal exchange between a politician and Aborigines in the outback. Women at a meeting near Alice Springs claim the Northern Territory Lands Minister was rude and abrasive. Max Ortman refuses to apologise.
The meeting was intended to discuss a controversial dam which could flood sacred sites on the Todd River. But tempers flared when Northern Territory Lands Minister Max Ortman announced the dam would go ahead regardless.
They just got angrier and angrier, and there's quite a bit of foul language floating around, which is disappointing with women and children there. I mean, you expect that type of thing in the front room of a front bar of a hotel, but not at a meeting where you're trying to solve problems with women's sacred sites.
A recording of the meeting gives a vivid impression of what became a slanging match.
You can call names all day, but it's not going to get anywhere. So you've stuffed me around all morning, you can sit here and call names. That's not going to solve anything.
You got no respect for Aboriginal people.
That's a lie. If you talk about bloody grog, we're not drinking Aboriginal grog. Don't call me a dingo.
I spent 3/4 of an hour with them yelling at me, and I think that was far enough. You just won't solve situations like that.
It's reported Max Ortman also told a woman to get up off your fat bum and fix your grog problem. Federal Aboriginal Affairs Minister Robert Tickner says Mr Ortman's behaviour left some women crying.
Clearly today I saw very distressed Aboriginal people, very hurt Aboriginal people, and I'm afraid it was a very, very distressing experience.
And revelations about racism in the New South Wales Police Force have attracted international attention.
The fatalities are just the most chilling symptom of a total breakdown in understanding between black and white.
At home, Premier Greiner says this week should mark a turning point.
The main thing we ought to be aiming at is making sure that the next generation of Australians, all Australians, grow up with a different set of attitudes.
Steve Barnes, 7 Nightly News.
Residents along the central Queensland coast have been warned to batten down as Cyclone Fran continues to advance. Even though she's weakening, the State Counter-Disaster Unit is on full alert following Bureau predictions that Fran will hit tomorrow night.
Cyclone Fran is hovering some 500 kilometres east of Mackay. While gale force winds are thrashing islands offshore, for surfers here it's been a treat. The sea here is normally calm. After remaining stationary overnight, Fran is now slowly heading southwest. On a scale of 5, she's been downgraded to a Category 2.
But it's still a very significant system, and if it comes ashore at that intensity, people on the central Queensland coast will certainly know all about it.
Destructive winds of up to 150 kilometres from the cyclone's eye are expected to hit the coast late tomorrow. The Bureau says the threat to central Queensland is still very real.
Cyclone Charlie on the North Queensland coast a couple of years ago was a Category 2 and did significant damage.
The State Emergency Service has warned residents from Maryborough to Mackay to clear properties of loose items and board or tape up their windows. Lexi Hamilton-Smith, 7 Nightly News.
A heavy death toll is feared in eastern Turkey, where an earthquake registering 6.2 on the Richter scale has devastated parts of the provincial city of Erzincan. Communications to the area are cut, but there are reports of major damage to hotels, office buildings, the city hospital and to several apartment blocks. Radio distress calls have gone out for doctors and bulldozers, and it's feared as many as 1,000 people may be dead. A Brisbane man has plunged to his death during a climbing expedition in New Zealand's Southern Alps. 24-year-old Mark Francis Jensen died after falling over a bluff on Mount Aspiring last night. Dunedin police say Jensen and his Australian companion were on their way down the mountain when the tragedy occurred. And a 24-year-old man is in critical condition in Maryborough Hospital after being passed over by a goods train as he lay unconscious on the tracks. Police say it appears that the man crashed his motorcycle over an embankment and came to rest on the railway lines. Knocked unconscious, he was only discovered after a 9-carriage train had passed over him. He's suffering multiple head injuries. And still to come on 7 News tonight, South Africa's President de Klerk mobbed by protesting students, and newlyweds swept off their feet on the Gold Coast.
Home to Roost. Tonight, 7:30.
You won't find fitter, happier, healthier dogs than these, and a lot of it comes down to their food.
Paul Robinson, breeder of champion pointers, talks about Pal Casserole.
When you open the can and pour it out, it looks just like a casserole you'd make for yourself. There's lots and lots of meaty chunks in it, lots of lovely thick gravy. It's vitamin enriched and there's no preservatives. If they get the right foods, then they are fit and happy. Pal Casserole is a healthy and hearty dog food that I can totally recommend.
Top breeders recommend Pal.
OK, son, it's time to teach you the proper way to eat Smith's Crisps. Open the pack, take out the first chip. Slowly, slowly. Been a long time growing. Into the mouth. Enjoy that great potato taste. Take out the second chip. Let's try it again, son.
Smith's Crisps, the original and still the best. Suzuki Swift. Everyday cars that aren't.
Consider this. A diet high in soluble fiber, low in animal fat, can help reduce cholesterol. New Kellogg's Balance Oat Bran Flakes is the cereal high in soluble fiber and lower still in fat. If Australians could reduce their cholesterol level by as little as 5%, up to 15 lives can be saved every day. Yours could be one of them.
New Kellogg's Balance Oat Bran Flakes helps put your life in better shape.
You're watching 7:19 News. Authorities in Darwin have impounded the ship used in this week's unsuccessful protest voyage to Timor. The Lusitania Expresso returned to Darwin on Thursday after being turned back by Indonesian warships. A court order issued yesterday prevents the Portuguese-owned vessel from setting sail again. A Spanish company claims that it's owed $69,000 by the ship's owner, based in Lisbon. The vessel's skipper is expected to lodge an appeal. In South Africa, 25 people have been killed in a campaign of terror aimed at defeating this week's referendum on apartheid. President de Klerk has warned that he will not be intimidated by right-wing tactics aimed at blocking a multiracial government.
The polls say de Klerk is ahead, but today he looked like a politician in trouble. Hundreds of right-wing students jostled the president as he arrived at Pretoria University to urge them to vote yes in Tuesday's referendum. De Klerk dismissed the incident.
We are fortunate in South Africa in knowing that ugly face of radicalism represents a very small and vociferous minority.
Harder to dismiss were bombs that exploded overnight in offices of de Klerk's National Party. Likely a message from right-wing extremists who've said they'll oppose reform by any means necessary. The choice is clear. A yes vote by whites will give the de Klerk government a mandate to continue talks aimed at drawing up a democratic constitution, ending white rule. A no vote will put the brakes on reform and pave the way for a conservative white government hostile to the rights of South Africa's black majority.
If the Conservative Party comes into power and carries out its policies, as it has now declared, civil war in this country is unavoidable.
Some would say civil war is already here. Black-on-black violence claimed at least 24 lives today. Hundreds have been killed since the referendum was announced 3 weeks ago.
The United States aircraft carrier America has moved into the Persian Gulf as Iraq comes under increasing pressure to comply with the United Nations weapons order. Iraq has so far failed to eliminate all of its weapons of mass destruction. America is supported by about 30 other US warships in the region. And some of the world's biggest rock stars have performed together in New York to save the world's rainforests. Elton John, Don Henley, James Taylor and Sting sang to a packed Carnegie Hall, raising money for the Rainforest Foundation. Sting set up the foundation 5 years ago to protect Brazil's Amazon Indians. Well, maybe they were swept off their feet, but a Canungra couple have taken to the skies to celebrate their wedding. After exchanging vows in the middle of the Gold Coast Broadwater, the couple sealed the contract with a kiss and then prepared to really take the plunge. Phil and Julie Prosser won their unusual wedding and reception after responding to a national competition. Heavy wind gusts meant the nuptial flight had to be kept short, but no one seemed to mind. Well, thousands turned out in green this morning to take part in the St Patrick's Day parade. 50 floats wound their way through Brisbane streets, prompting cheers from onlookers. The Irish dancers were a favourite, along with the ever-popular pipe bands and these two little leprechauns. Even the King George Square fountain showed its true colours for the day. St Patrick's Day, next Tuesday the 17th, of course. Now, here's a Patrick that is no saint at all.
Oh, thank you very much, Gary. Coming up in sport tonight, World Cup and Sheffield Shield highlights. The Sierras on fire in Tasmania and an injury shock for the Broncos on Challenge Cup final eve.
The hit movie Pretty Woman was based on this timeless classic. Audrey Hepburn, Rex Harrison and the Academy Award-winning My Fair Lady, tonight on 7.
Presenting the Wheels Magazine Car of the Year, the new Nissan Pulsar with 25% more power than Laser, 10% better economy than Corolla, and technology you won't see in Honda Civic, like remote control alarm and optional ABS brakes, making the zippy new Pulsar Australia's best small car. It's a Nissan, that's my car.
This year, Australians will share a special bond, a National Olympic bond. For every dollar you invest in National Olympic bonds, we'll donate 0.13% towards sending our team to the Games. Invest $1,000 or more for 6 months or longer and get behind our athletes. For more information, call 008 032 372 or apply at any branch. National Australia Bank, tailoring banking to your needs.
One taste, and you're hooked.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. I'm hooked on the feeling. I won't believe it that you're in love with me.
All right, you take care of yourself now. You're beautiful, yeah, bye. You know, these mobile phones work better here than they do in the States. I can talk all the way from Bundaberg to,
Hobart.
Yeah, that's right, without losing touch, not once. Over the same distance, say, LA to New York, this thing would be useless.
Yeah, well, Telecom MobileNet has got more coverage than any network service in the world.
MobileNet? Well, who developed this MobileNet service then?
We did, Chucky. We did.
Telecom MobileNet, Australia's own.
When Goldie Hawn gets amnesia, she goes from riches to rags.
This missing link person is not my husband. Come on!
Overboard, Sunday on 7.
It was war in Tasmania today as the dynamic twins Steve and Mark spearheaded Australia's first convincing victory of the World Cup. Australia scored a massive 265 from their 46 overs in a rain-shortened innings. Mark wore top scoring with an unbeaten 66. Brother Steve chipping in with 55 and 2 wickets.
Australia needed quick runs, but Boone wanted them too quickly for Tom Moody's good, leaving him stranded in the second over for 6.
Oh, there's a run out here. He's gone.
There was no hesitation in Dean Jones's play, mixing quick singles with some superb boundaries.
Good shot by Jones.
When David Boone found range as well, it seemed Australia was on the road to a mammoth total. But rain soon put the Skids under the assault, reducing the match to 46 overs. The 35-minute interruption also took its toll on Boone, falling to Ali Shah for 48, Australia 2 for 102.
It's got him. Good delivery, good line.
Porter moved himself up the order, but after a quick 22 also moved too far up the pitch.
Tricos is out.
When Jones followed for 54, Australia seemed in all too familiar territory, 4 for 144. But after being dropped on his second delivery, Steve Waugh combined with brother Mark in a brilliant recovery. They counted 113 runs off 69 balls, Mark bringing up his 50 with a 6.
Right under the hill.
Steve fell at 55 in the second last over, but it helped Australia to a magnificent 265. Australia needed to keep Zimbabwe below 150 runs. Again, it was Steve Waugh who led the way. Flower and Pycraft off successive balls. A cracker from Whitney crushed Arnott as Zimbabwe crumbled to 7 for 97. The result was never in doubt. Brandis, the last to fall for 23. Zimbabwe's 137-run total, enough to keep Australia's World Cup hopes alive. John Brady for 7 Nightly News.
And that victory was useful for Australia as they harbour faint hopes of making the semi-finals. They've moved to outright 5th with only one match remaining, but need several results to go their way tomorrow. Queensland's final Shield game of the season can't end quick enough for the Maroons. After Tasmania cruised to declare it 6 for 400, Queensland crashed to be all out for 182 and were forced to follow on with still 2 days' play remaining. The sparse crowd was enjoying itself, even if the Queenslanders had only flashes of success. Cox was Rackerman's second victim of the innings, and Oxenford also snared his second scalp when Young was trapped in front for 63. But aside from that, it was all Tasmania as they raced to 6 for 400 before lunch and declared. And then mysteriously, this placid Gabba pitch came to life. Matthews removes Hayden, who still needs now 75 runs to pass 1,000 for the season. Former Queenslander Peter McPhee grabbed the prize scalp of Greg Ritchie, and then Barsby went for 14, caught by Courtney off Matthews. Stuart Law's season of woe continued. He was out for a duck. Matthews had 3 wickets and Queensland was 4 for 58. Only Dirk Wellham offered resistance. His innings of 60 against his old state was superb. But partners were deserting him. Goggin went shouldering arms to Tucker, and when McPhee snapped up a brilliant caught and bowled from Wellham, the end was nigh. Matthews and Tucker cleaned up the tail. Queensland's lack of commitment gave the Tasmanians a match-winning lead of 218 on the first innings. The Broncos have had a setback for tomorrow night's Challenge Cup final against Illawarra with the withdrawal of hitman Trevor Gilmeister with a back injury. Big Bob Conway takes his place in the pack and Paul Hoff is likely to start at fullback.
When the Broncos had their final hit out this afternoon at Gilbert Park, Gilmeister was a spectator, nursing a strained lower back.
Bit of stiffness in the back and lower part of my legs is a little bit heavy, so it's just not worth the risk at this stage of the year, so Wayne said, I'd rather be right for Friday night, so that's fair enough by me.
Whilst the Broncos will miss tackles like this from the man they call the Axe, they'll gain in bulk and kicking expertise with the inclusion of 95 kilograms Bob Conway. In the backs, it seems Paul Hoff will start at fullback in his first match since a shoulder reconstruction 4 months ago.
He seemed to have no trouble whatsoever, so he's fitted right back in there.
Alan Cairns also had a back problem, but after this treatment from trainer Kelvin Giles, believe it or not, he's fit. Although Gilmeister's withdrawal indicates the Broncos' emphasis on Friday's premiership match with Cronulla, the players are jumping out of their skin at the prospect of a $5,000 bonus per man for a win tomorrow in Dubbo.
Actually, I think the ball work's starting to come together a little bit better now in the last week or so, what it's been the last couple of weeks.
One thing's for sure, Alfie Langer's kicking boot is right on target.
The Rugby Union Premiership opened today with Sunnybank causing the upset, beating East 12-0. Brothers easily beat Jeeps 26-3 and University beat Norths 19 points to 10. Tasmanian Devil John Bowe has taken provisional pole position for tomorrow's third round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championships at Symmons Plains. Bowe has led a Ford Sierra Blitz on the front 2 rows, while Nissan drivers Mark Scaife and Jim Richards spent only marginal time on the track and paid the penalty.
After claiming successive poles at Amaroo and Sandown, Bowe was on a hat-trick today and he didn't disappoint hometown supporters, turning a stunning lap of 55.69 seconds, well under the qualifying and race mark set last year by Jim Richards and the Nissan GTR.
This circuit is actually harder on tyres than Sandown or Amaroo, so I did a simulated race run before and the tyres were losing their grip, but still a lot better than we had last year, so I'm hopeful of a good result.
Only 6 100ths behind the Tasmanian is veteran Sydney driver Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra, with Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson machine and Dick Johnson's Shell Ford only a whisker behind. Fastest of the V8 brigade was again Peter Brock, 7th overall, but still quicker than the Nissans just the same.
People out there would love to see the whole win and would love to see a real stoush with the local product, giving some of the important cars some curry.
The lack of track time by the Nissans quickly fueled speculation. The team has adopted a policy of coast Saturday and collect Sunday, prepared to save tyres, even if it means starting off the rear and not the front of the field.
Any of the guys up on the hill obviously aren't very good watchers, because if they looked how hard we were trying, we weren't trying to miss the dash for cash, I can assure you.
Kawasaki rider Matt Malatin leads the Superbike qualifying, and like Bo, looks set for back-to-back wins. Mike Raymond, 7 Nightly News.
Well, Mick Dittman again proved why he's rated one of the world's best jockeys, riding 4 winners at Moonee Valley this afternoon. The highlight came when Dittman finally dragged the best out of the Lee Friedman-trained 3-year-old Naturalism, who brilliantly won the $300,000 Alistair Clark Stakes.
And they're followed by Dark Czar, and just behind them, ready to explode, is now under pressure as they make the home turn. Naturalism on the outside, joining Captain Cooker. Dark Czar pulled to the outside, is finishing on as they straighten up. Naturalism takes the leader. Dark Czar is down the outside, followed by Captain Cook, but Naturalism's from in front, drawing clear in the final stages. Too good today, Naturalism. And Naturalism races home to a good win. Naturalism has won it tight for second.
In the Stanley Wootton Stakes, the consistent Dapper's Hope started at 9-1 and was too good for the heavily backed wraparound.
But Dapper's Hope has dashed well clear with 100 metres left to go from Street Ruffian and wrap around. Dapper's Hope too good in the run home and wins it well. Dapper's Hope by a length and a half. Street Ruffian.
The Diamond Jubilee Stakes was yet another triumph for Akushla Marie, who's now won 10 of her 21 starts.
Akushla Marie was the leader with about 100 metres left to go. She's getting clear in the final stages. Too good Akushla Marie. Akushla Marie's won it nicely.
And in Sydney, a dream rails run gave brilliant 3-year-old filly Office her 5th straight win.
Look at the rails run coming for Office. She's starting to hit top gear. Romany Conti joining in, but Office is bursting through on the fence. She's going to do it again. She'd win at Harold Park.
A record number of 49 national rowing titles were decided at Carrum today, with Melbourne's Awesome Foursome successful after a struggle. The dual world champions eventually added the Australian Coxed 4 title to their trophy cabinet.
Before a good crowd and in ideal conditions, the 4 of James Tompkins, Nick Green, Mike Mackay and Andrew Cooper were maybe stretched more than they anticipated. However, they answered the challenge to edge out Lindisfarne and the University of Queensland, winning by 1.96 seconds. In the sculls, MUBC's Peter Anthony, 4th in the Worlds last year, could have almost booked a spot in the Olympics for the singles with a convincing performance yet again. The former lightweight champ was too good, beating home Stephen Hawkins of Lindisfarne by 2.86 seconds. The women's event was a thriller, with national title holder Gillian Campbell leading from the start, but being overtaken in the shadows of the post by doubles partner Jenny Luff. Campbell struck a couple of boys as Luff took the title by 2.09 seconds. The big upset came in the men's double. Favourites were Peter Anthony and Paul Reedy, bronze medalists in the World Championships at Lake Barrington. This time, though, they were upstaged. Getting the better of them was the AIS No. 2 crew of Alistair McLaughlin and Craig Jones, who crossed the line from Lindisfarne and Commercial, with Anthony and Reedy out of the medals in 4th place. The women's double saw Campbell and Luff retain their title, however, in convincing style. They came home nearly 7 seconds ahead of the Queensland Academy of Sport crew, winning by 6.84 seconds. Peter Landy, 7 Nightly News.
And finally in sport tonight, the Brisbane Bears were too good for Panthers this afternoon, taking out their 5th softball grand final in 7 years. The game was tied at 0-0 until the bottom of the 4th, when Bears added 4 runs to the board. Panthers threw everything they had into the last 3 innings but failed to score. There were some spectacular catches, including one to Anne Vogel, and some brilliant fielding on the day. Good stuff. That's all in sport, Gary.
Thank you, Patrick. And Ken Brown is standing by. We'll have his Coast Watch report after this break.
An adventure across the largest and least explored nation on Earth. George Negus takes us across the red unknown, tonight on 7.
Nissan Patrol. Power and sophistication that eclipses everything in its class. Unbelievable.
It's a Nissan, that's my car.
I've worked for 2 banks, one that charges cheque fees and one that doesn't. And it's clear from what the customers say which one's better. When you have a cheque-link account with us at Advance Bank, you can write as many cheques as you like and it won't cost you a cent. So if you're paying bank fees where you are, don't complain to them, complain to me. I can do something about it.
A bank with a no-fees cheque account? Now that's an Advance Bank.
Yamaha multi-disc CD players. Toomball Music. Pioneer Video Laserdisc. Toomball Music. Yamaha Component Hi-Fi. Toombul Music. Pioneer Home Cinema. Toombul Music. The impressive range of JBL hi-fi speakers. Toombul Music. The people who really know hi-fi.
Squat out the words. For portable printing with high resolution. Squat, squat, squat. Or A3 printing in near silence. Here's the solution. It's a bubble jet. And for pages that'll make your eyes pop. A bubble jet printer. There's even 4-color process for the desktop. The Squirts from Canon in black and now in color too.
Tonight's weather is brought to you by SeaWorld, Gold Coast, Australia.
Well, an overcast day here in the southeast, but not entirely unpleasant, particularly if you enjoy the cooler southeasterly winds. Temperatures a couple of degrees below average for Brisbane, 22 to 26 the range. Top temperature for Ipswich and the western suburbs was 27 degrees. The official Bureau forecast, cloudy conditions, a few showers tonight, rain periods tomorrow, with moderate to fresh southeasterlies. Temperature range for the city, same as today, 22 to 26, and Ipswich and the western suburbs 21 to 26. For the Gold Coast, cloudy, showers expected, fresh to gusty southeasterly winds, 22 to 26 the temperature range there. And for the Sunshine Coast, overcast with showers increasing to rain periods tomorrow, strong southeasterly winds, 22 to 26 degrees also. And looking ahead, Monday, rain, temperatures in the mid-20s, clearing Tuesday, but sultry with temperatures in the high 20s. On the colour satellite map, tropical cyclone Fran spiralling her way down the coast with cloud massing over the coastline. Main feature of today's chart, of course, is tropical cyclone Fran with 975 hectopascals, which is bringing in the cloud, the strong winds and the showers to the state. Tomorrow, Fran will remain fairly stationary off the coast and conditions will deteriorate further. So around Queensland, we can expect rain, strong winds from Rockhampton down the coast, but fine for Townsville and Mackay. And around the nation, some showers for Adelaide and Melbourne, an afternoon star wind for I'll get it in a minute, an afternoon storm for Darwin, and mainly fine elsewhere. Speaking of elsewhere, Ken Brown, where are you?
Down about the Brisbane River, Gary. That was a good one. Okay, here's the Weather Bureau's forecast for coastal areas that split Fraser Island to Coolangatta into two parts. Double Island Point, north to Sandy Cape, they've got a gale warning, 35 to 40 knots to southeast. The sea's 5 metres, a 5 metre easterly swell in rain areas. All that coming off Fran. Double Island Point to Coolangatta, a bit less wind, 20 to 30 southeast. Seas 3 to 4 metres, 4 metre easterly swell in open water. Showers increasing, and a similar wind forecast for Moreton Bay with seas 2 metres in exposed parts and also rain areas developing. A look at the tide track graph, and we have highs at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and a low tide about 1 p.m. Now, it's not really good along the beaches, and on the Sunshine Coast most of them were closed today. This is what it looked like at Maroochydore. Also dangerous on the Gold Coast beaches, and best advice is to keep out of swimming in the surf until things settle. A few waves at Noosa. It's been about the only spot. That's what Tea Tree was looking like, and National Park. Now, it wasn't really lining up all that good. It doesn't look too bad here on the shots, but the real good waves were a bit few and far between, and it's fairly crowded. So if you're heading off to Noosa tomorrow, don't expect it to be too great, but at least it is protected from the southeasterly wind and there are a few waves there. Now on the Gold Coast, look out, he's getting airborne. On the Gold Coast, the go was Kirra and Greenmount, but you can see it's not really lining up there real good either. They had the team's challenge on at Kirra today. You can see from the surf there it's sort of chunky and a lot of rips around that area, so there's not too many people really surfing it because a lot of them just can't handle the conditions. You can see from the way that guy's trying to paddle into the rip there, it's just really hard going. Now around the corner at Greenmount, they were having the Tarchee Women's Surfing Contest. This is a Mermaid Beach surfer, Kath Ryan, one of the competitors, making the best of the waves there. And to show you how much swell's about, that's inside the Southport Seaway. It's not a spot I'd recommend for novice surfers either, but when the swell's that big in the seaway, you wouldn't want to go through it. Nice flathead, Jamie Burns, caught in the Nerang River last night, and there was a few brim and also a whiting or two to be taken off the Southport Seaway today. Look, it's just not good fishing weather. There is a full fishing report in tomorrow's Sunday Mail, but I think we just should watch ourselves around the coast until the weather settles.
Okay, thank you, and keep that waterproof jacket on, Ken. You'll need it tomorrow. Ken Brown there with the Coast Watch report, and that's 7:90 News this Saturday evening. We'll be back with you again at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Good night.
Good night.
A colonial, or you just love old homes, there's an architectural treasure trove just half an hour from Brisbane. Ipswich has 6 special heritage trails showing off the very best of every period. Discover the heritage of Ipswich this weekend.
Danae, Danone's delicious new dairy fruit desserts, a great product of the Great Southeast.
Discover the Great Southeast in Thursday's Courier Mail, Brisbane 4KQ, and proudly presented by 7 Nightly News.
He's always on the run.
You die!
From the law, the mob and furious husbands.
You never said anything about husband.
Dennis the Minder Waterman in Stay Lucky. Premieres Monday.
Nobody knows Brisbane like 7.
The vehicles provided for this documentary also handle beautifully in Australia.